what's going on. So we're just out here in the woods. Not too deep in the woods though. And I just wanted to talk about, first of all, subscribe to my channel, give a like if you like the video, of course, or leave a comment below and tell me your experience of what I'm about to talk about. Is it was supposed to be a 3-day journey, bike ride, but it ended up being just like 2 days. Yeah, well, mine was a 2-day. We're supposed to go further distance, basically, and we didn't. And I'm gonna get to that in a second. And we only went basically like 2/3 of the distance. And it was a bike ride that I went on, and it was for like I said, basically 2 days. And it was 36 miles there to where we got to. I think the destination we were trying to get to was like 56 miles, which at this destination had a camping spot or a place to rest, basically. And the spot is like kind of like a log cabin with one end chopped off. So one end is open, and that's where we're going to stay. And this is what the camping spots look like. I think they're called like a trisecta or trivecta. I'm not sure, but basically it's just like a 4 walls, but one's missing a wall. And they actually supply the firewood there too, which is pretty dope. And we didn't get to the third spot, so we went on, it was supposed to be like around 56 miles to get to the place we were going to go to. But we didn't get there because we left down in February, and it's about like September right now when I'm shooting this video. But we left in February, and we went on the ride. Obviously, we left our homes. We didn't have to actually go anywhere. We started exactly at our houses, and the trail is called the Ohiopyle Trail. It's subordinate or subdivided into like smaller trails, basically, but for the most part, it's the Ohiopyle Trail. But they're actually extending the trail up towards my house even a little bit further, which is cool. But we had to get on the trail first, and the trail doesn't start, there's different, some say it starts at different places, but I just know the place we were going to was 36 miles in. Well, we wanted to go to a different place because basically there were 3 camps. There was one that they said, because I went with 2 friends, and there was one they said that wasn't a good spot, so we didn't go to the first one. That's why we were going to stay at the second one, or even try to get to the third one and stay out there for a day. That was actually, I think, the real plan, was to stay out there on the 3rd day. And to get to the furthest one we were going to get to, stay there for a day, relax out there, explore, and then come back and maybe stay at the other spot. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. And now I know some people are going to be like, 36 miles, that's not a lot. Well, yes, it is, and I'm going to tell you why. I mean, I've never even rode a bike necessarily that long at all, but I know there's cyclists out there and other people that ride bikes all the time, and that's not really a far distance for them. But there's things that contributed to this. Like I said, first of all, the trail didn't even start till, even though we got 36 miles in, we weren't necessarily 36 miles on the trail. We had to cover some distance to get to the trail where it actually begun, and which some say is like, it's not like the best part, because I think the trail starts at ends in Pittsburgh, and it begins and starts in Washington, D.C. You can go from either way. So it goes from Washington, D.C. all the way up Maryland, Washington, D.C., Maryland, that's where it's at, all the way up to Pittsburgh. I'm not sure the total mileage, but you could search it. It's probably real easy, and it's called the Ohiopyle Trail. And I've never done nothing like this my entire life. So I'm going to explain my experience and hopefully motivate you and give some tips and just tell a story basically and ask some questions to myself and something like that, rhetorical questions, I guess. So like I said, we were gonna we went to go out. We actually left, and I was still like really tired and exhausted. I still had, you know, my chronic fatigue basically, and I just kind of negated it and pushed through it. And I don't know, it was like a live and die situation basically. Like, yeah, I was really tired, but I did push through it. I have that mentality. We'll get to that later in the story, but basically I started at my house, our houses, because I did it with my neighbors actually, which is really cool. They've done the trail before. I'm not sure if they went all the way, but they went partial way or something. The story is actually going to be a little longer than I thought it was going to be. So we rode out starting from my house, but the first part was like really rocky because it wasn't part of the trail, and we had to get down there, and we left like super early in the morning. That, like, they didn't go to sleep, I did, and we woke up. They said meet up at 3:30, and I met up with them. I was ready. I didn't know what to get in, what to prepare for. I packed this quilt, the most heaviest quilt. It's like super nice. I don't have it anymore. We'll get to that too, but I packed this quilt, and it was made by my ex-girlfriend's mother, and it was like I would say it was like $1,000 quilt, like at least. Like, it was super, super nice. It had like safari type of like African landscape on there basically, and it was super heavy duty. But I wasn't using it for a while, and it was in the basement, and it got like real dusty and smoggy, and you know, just kind of like that wet dew smell, and like kind of like allergic reaction to it too. Not necessarily me, but I just like, I don't know, it was really weird. Some type of reaction to it, and not emotional, but just like the fact that it was just like really weird. Like, it was just, you know, there was dew on it or something, and it was just, couldn't sleep with it basically. And we'll get to that too. So I packed that, and I packed some other things they told me to pack. I packed a little bit of food. Ironically, right before we left, I got a stomach pain, ache, because I ate something and it didn't agree with my stomach, and it gave me like a lot of pain. So additionally to that, being really fatigued, stomach pain, and I was like, oh my God. And it was awful actually. It hurt real bad. I ate like a bunch of like coconut butter, basically. Coconut butter, and it just like, I ate too much, and it just not vibe with my stomach at all. And I packed like some other things too, but just some clothes basically, some socks, and I think that was it basically. And we were set. They wanted to meet up at 3:30, but they weren't like, I don't want to say they weren't prepared, but they got all their stuff prepared when I got there, so we didn't even leave for another hour. So I was just like helping them pack and getting our stuff all together real early in the morning. And I want to say this was in February, where it was really cold, and it was still cold out. It wasn't necessarily snowing, but it was cold outside basically. Like, it definitely was cold, because I remember riding in the wind and my hands were like freezing, like definitely freezing. And so we were riding out, went up. We stopped at the store. I helped them pack before, and they helped me. What ended up happening was we were fixing the bikes, getting them ready, and then they wanted to put a crate on the back of my bike to carry all the stuff that we were bringing, and all the just supplies, I guess, additional supplies. And they put a crate on the back of my bike, but in doing so, putting this crate on the end of my bike, I basically didn't know, because I usually stand up when I ride. But here's like another catch. A catch 22 is I stood up for all 36 miles because I couldn't even sit down, because the way the bike that I had, the bike that I had and the way the crate was, it was so high up, I couldn't sit down on it. And I couldn't just take the crate off because then I would have to drop whatever supplies, and it wasn't mine. So I ended up having this whole big crate with me and then standing up the whole time where I couldn't even sit down. So we rode out, and like, I have no clue what I'm getting into at all, you know. And we just going out, riding out. We took a couple stops, you know, they smoked cigarettes, I didn't, but at the time I was smoking weed, and so I decided to smoke like a little bit of weed when we stopped at the stops. We stopped about like 5 times, I'll say. 5 times, like short, like almost like cigarette breaks, maybe a little longer cigarette break, to get to our 36-mile destination. And when we got on the trail, since it was colder out, there was a lot of friction on the trail because it was just really, just because the weather and stuff. Like, we were on the trail. Eventually we got on the trail. I'm not sure how many miles in, but I just calculated it from the house, basically. That's how I know it was 36 miles to get to where we got to. And the trail was like creating a lot of friction. So it wasn't like going down a road or something real flat and smooth. It was kind of like, it was like a path, but it was like kind of wet and damp. And like I said, a lot of friction. So it slowed us down. And again, like I said, I stood up the whole way out there, all in all. And I did record some of it and stuff like that. I was trying to like vlog it. I did put it up on my other social media, but that's, you know, that's about it. I didn't actually get to put the stories together because my phone got too full of data information and I couldn't do anything with it. So I had to reset my phone and basically delete all that stuff. And I couldn't make the vlog that I wanted to, basically. But now I have a little comprehension, or comprehend it more. So now, you know, I guess you live and you learn. And I'm just gonna talk about like the experience going out there now. Covered most of the stuff. I mean, I did have a diming back, pretty good condition and everything. We didn't have no problems with the bikes, though, that's for sure. Other than me standing up the whole time, and me not being accustomed to riding bikes, or, you know. So the overall experience was like really cool. Like, I liked it. I don't really like riding bikes that much. I'm kind of like prefer to be preferably on my feet. I really like to be on my feet, and hiking, which is something I'm probably going to get into. That's going to be another topic, but I'm probably going to talk about that more at the end. And so we were riding out there. It was real peaceful. I see why they liked it. They were in the riding bikes, I must say this too. And again, they've done the trail, or most of it. They've done it like once or twice. So it was really cool. And I was, it was real peaceful, even though like I was still like really fatigued and really couldn't enjoy it that much. I still did get some therapy just being out in that nature. And it wasn't that much nature till you got deeper into it, and we didn't really get there toward the end of the miles, because it was mostly industrial. We were riding through different parts of the city and different little towns before we even really got into, I'm not sure exactly where the Ohiopyle Trail starts at, but we were just making our way to there, and eventually we did get there to some extent. And we kept going and going, and it was just like real peaceful. It was like I said, a lot of fresh air. It was in a way, and I could see this, it was like therapeutic. But like I said, we actually had to go up some hills. I don't know what they were called. They're like, it's kind of like cement bridges to go over the rivers, like, or something. You had to like go up like really high, like really high, like real steep things. They weren't the worst. Like, it wasn't like mountains, but there were a lot of, because I noticed on the way back, it was just like a downhill type of motion, and so it was like a slight incline. I think they said like a 2% incline. I don't remember what they said specifically, but there were hills up there like in a slight incline, whereas going back was more so declination. And like I said, there was that friction and then some couple hills and then me standing up the whole time, not really sitting down. And we take very minimalistic breaks basically. And we just kept riding and riding and riding. And so I think we left at like around 4:30 in the morning. We got there at about, I would say we got there at about 4 o'clock. We got to the destination and we decided like, this is where we're going to go at this spot, the second spot, which I think was Draco's Cave or Dravo's Cave. I don't necessarily remember. It's definitely a spot on the map. You can see it, Dravo's Cave. They had wood there. You could get your water. There was a nice stream right there and a couple trisectas or whatever they're called, some weird name. And with there was actually people when we got there, and we ended up talking and associating with them and met some friends. It was really cool. Yeah, it was really cool. They actually had a fire going and stuff like that, and it was really cool because we got to talk to them and meet some people. And they were they were actually just leaving as we were arriving, like getting ready to leave. So we got to chit chat with them. It was just really cool. They were down to earth people too. And that was really cool too. And like I said, my experience there was real peaceful. Even though I was like, had to keep pushing and pushing, I was just basically, I did eat some things, but I was eating while I was riding. And it was just like I said, real therapeutic too. And I was tired, but I did just push it and push it and push it basically. And like we did stop 3 to 5 times, and every time I like did hit like a joint a couple times just because they were smoking cigarettes, and like I didn't actually want to stop, but they did, which is fine. And that just preluded to me like just making me like, I don't know, like I didn't want to just like sit there, and I just like had to distract myself with the fatigue and stuff, so I ended up smoking basically. That ultimately made me like, probably just made it a little harder, honestly, but not the end of the world. And it was also really cold. It was pretty cold. Like I remember my hands were like freezing up, but like it was really cold because this is back in February, and this was a cold season too. I've never really biked in any cold weather. It wasn't snowing, but it was definitely cold. So we got there, we chilled the rest of the day. They made a campfire. We got in the building, or in that building, and we just pretty much relaxed and just chilled out the whole time. 18 minutes, yeah. It's about to end soon. And like I said, it took 36 miles to get there. What was I just about to say about oh yeah, so my legs that night, it was really cold. It was really cold that night. I couldn't even use my quilt because it like smelled, there was so much dew and it smelled so bad on it. So my friend actually let me use his, and he took the blanket, and he slept through it fine until the next morning, and he was like having an allergic reaction to it. It's just crazy. And I was cold all night. There was a train nearby, but I'm kind of used to the train. But this train was like right there, like right across the little river-like stream, or maybe it was a river. But it was the shorter or less width one, less widening one. I don't even know the word for that. Smaller one. And we, you could hear the train, like, and the trains for some reason at this park came by like every hour. I don't think that's what kept me awake, but my muscles were so tense and I wasn't stretching or anything. I did stretch a little bit out there, but also it was really hard to stretch. I was tired too, like super tired, and just exhausted more, fatigued, super fatigued. And I don't even know how I did it, really, to be honest. Like just pushing and pushing and pushing. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or bad, but probably not the best thing when you're fatigued. But my sleep, I woke, my muscles were so tense from doing all this bike riding, like immediately, there's a B, immediately, like when I got there, all I did was friggin', like they were so tense when I couldn't lay down. They would just tighten up so much. like my whole leg was tightening up. It hurt to lay down. Sideways, on my back, I could not lay down. It was crazy. And on top of it, I was freezing. Like the cold at night, it got really cold. But that adding all the stress to the muscles, like making them condense on top of all the bike riding that my muscles really weren't used to, they were just like so like concentrated and hard. And like I kept waking up like every hour, and eventually I just like I woke up and just like sat by the fire. It was just like ridiculous. And yeah, that was the night. It was a pretty rough sleep, I would say. I did like sleeping in the cabin and stuff, but the sleep was rough, definitely. And I was cold because the fire wasn't big enough. The warmth, it was like far further away, and it wasn't big enough to give me warmth. And I had like a smaller blanket. It was cold. It was rough. And my legs were freezing. I couldn't even lay down. Like impossible. It just hurt. So, yeah. And then the next day, I was up. I ate a little something. And I thought we were going to go out further. They didn't want to go anymore. And I tried riding to like a local town, a little up the road. My legs were completely exhausted. Could not do it. And then they basically wanted to sit there for the rest of the day. I did sit there for a little bit more, but then I was like, you know what, fuck it. I want to go home. I don't want to spend the rest of the day here. That was just me. Nothing against anybody else. I just had different plans in my head. And not that I'm really a planner or anything, but I like to kind of like stick to the script when we are, or stick to the plans when we do something. And that necessarily didn't happen because we didn't get there and they didn't want to go any further. And I don't know if we could even went further. So we ended up riding 36 miles back the next day, and it was raining, and I didn't stop at all. I was completely exhausted. I stopped like twice. I got to the point where I couldn't even ride when I got back basically in town, a few miles from the house. I couldn't even ride anymore. I had to walk the bike at one point because my muscles were just drained. It was pouring at one point on me, and I was just like really fatigued. I ate they had like some eggs or something that I ate because I was out of food. I didn't even have anything, and I got like pain and cramps from that, which that was ridiculous too. It was just a really rough ride, but it was really inspiring at the same time. You know what I mean? Just it feels nice to get outside and gives you like so much motivation, inspiration. It feels really good. So I plan on doing something like that again, hopefully when I feel a lot better and get a lot more energy and obviously feel better. I'm thinking about maybe hiking the Appalachian Trail, but that won't be till next year, 2021. Or doing something like that. If I do hike the trail, that would be like I'd probably want to try to hike the whole thing, but I'd have to have like the energy and I'd have to be feeling good. It's pretty much hard to say because I know I'm not completely back, and I probably could push it, but I don't know if it'd be beneficial. And I've never done nothing like that at all, and that probably takes like months to do that basically. And then also a financial point, I don't know if I'd have the money that I need to actually go do it, but I could probably work something out. But then again, I don't really know, so we'd have to see when it comes up. But even the biking thing, I'd probably be interested in doing something like that again. It was really fun. I was going to say one more thing about the sleeping at night. It was just a real crazy ride. Not like a ride you would think, just like, because like the friction on the tires, me standing up the whole time, like just ridiculous. Like I like standing up, but when I rest, I sit down, but I couldn't rest because sitting down was like standing up. So there was no resting unless I actually got off the bike basically. And my muscles were just so tired, like ridiculous. I've never felt nothing like that when they were so cold at night, and just like the pain. And it's probably because my body was really fatigued too. So that's probably another thing to actually think about it. And then like additional things, we didn't go as far as we went, so that messed with me. Some other things, me standing up, And just also, like, I was going to go to the store. We didn't actually end up going to the store because of where we were at. We didn't get to where we were going. So, but it was all in all a really good experience. You know what I mean? I loved it, and it's something I never did before. Even though there were like super painful moments. And really cold too. It was really cold. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say. And I look forward to doing like things in the future like that. It's just like right now I don't have energy, so when you don't have energy, you can't really freaking do anything. It's just like energy is everything, and I say that all the time. When you have a lot of energy, then freaking I've had a lot of energy pretty much most of my life, and you can go do things. But when you don't have no energy, it's like impossible to do anything because you don't have no energy. But that's just because like I had chronic fatigue. I'm not going to get into that, but that was there, and I did push through all of that. It was super hard, trust me. And I'm nowhere near like fixed from it, healed, whatever you want to say, but I know it's getting a little bit better basically. And I just want to talk about my experience on the Ohio, or I was gonna say the Ohio, the trail, the Ohiopyle, and you know, like it was more scenery when we got deeper into it, but they said it gets better and better, and they said it kind of like sucks at the beginning, which kind of did. It was still peaceful, and to get away from everything, quiet at some points too, but it got like better. It did get better and better and better, you know. But me, just with the fatigue and stuff too, was just like that played a part of it too. So I probably would have enjoyed it so much more if freaking didn't have that. So I just wanted to talk about that, give a little story. I guess it was longer, but I didn't expect it for it to be that long. But there's a lot of stuff to cover, to be honest. But it was a fun ride. I did 36 miles one way, basically standing up, and 36 miles the next day. And you're like, trust me, it was a lot harder than it sounds. It definitely was. And yeah, definitely a longer video, but oh well. So subscribe to the channel if you watched the whole thing. Give a like, leave a comment below if you ever had experience hiking, doing anything out in nature, outdoors. That'd be pretty cool to hear. Any experiences, long ones, short ones. Let me know what you think, how you prepared for it, or did you not prepare for it. And yeah, I just wanted to tell my experience. So thanks for tuning in, and have a nice day.